Tomas Rincon to Juventus. It's kind of a deal that at first caught me off guard, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense, at least in my mind. Juventus are missing a destroyer in the midfield, somebody who has a very physical presence. And I'm not talking about a Sami Khedira type of player. What made Juventus great the last couple years is they had two of the most physical midfielders in the game, coupled with two very, very skilled midfielders like Andrea Pirlo and Claudio Marchisio. Well, Pirlo, Vidal, and Pogba are all gone, just leaving now Marchisio, Pjanic. I mean, Pjanic is a world-class midfielder in his own right, but there's no big key physical player on the team. Stefano Sturaro is not developing to be the next Gennaro Gattuso. That's just not happening. I think he's developing into his own right a different type of player. That's perfectly okay. Tomas Rincon brings the type of profile that you would expect from Juventus. He's exactly what they need. He's an experienced international destroyer in the midfield, a central defensive midfielder. He's the captain of the Venezuelan national team, despite some of their recent abysmal results. So what we have here is a player who can fill a role that Juventus desperately needs. Now, you might be asking, well, Juventus is in first place in Serie A by 4 points with a game in hand, and they finished first in their group, and they got drawn with Porto. What's the problem? Here's the problem. In the past, the team was resilient. They have the best defense in the world, arguably. They had a midfield that was dazzling. The problem always was that they didn't have the strikers to do it. They didn't have the strikers to go up the next level and really compete for the Champions League. Now, look, let's be clear. Yes, Juventus made it to the Champions League final 2 years ago, but they got through with a little bit of help from the draws. Borussia Dortmund was not the same team that they had been in the past. They got tied up with Monaco. They outplayed Real Madrid over 2 legs, so I'll give you that. Yes, that worked. But they fell to Barcelona. And last year, they almost did it against Bayern Munich in the round of 16. But my point is that Juventus needs to get back to their roots in the midfield of being full of grinta. They just lack. There's just no physicality whatsoever in the side. And the departure of Vidal and Pogba poses many questions. Juventus have adopted a different style of play, of a more sleek, stylish, more of a playmaker's midfield, more flashy midfield. But that only works in very rare instances, and the only team that comes to mind that has truly succeeded with a largely stylish midfield was Barcelona. And it's a bit disingenuous to compare this Juventus to the Barcelona of like 2012. That ain't going to happen. But Tomas Rincon isn't a world-class footballer. When I heard the deal yesterday, I wasn't so surprised in the fact that Juventus was picking him up in the sense that he is a nobody. No, Tomas Rincon has been tracked after by several big clubs. He's been wanted by Middlesbrough in the Premier League, Inter Milan, AC Milan, all over the board. But the fact that Juventus, and Roma as well, I should throw in as Roma. So there is no shortage of big club suitors out there for Tomas Rincon. But I want to remind you something about this Genoa side. And we're going to dive into Genoa in a second because they're getting ripped apart in the January transfer window. That's already in the works. But this is the guy, Tomas Rincon, who has been the general, their version of Vidal, since he signed in 2014. He had flown under the radar for a bit, but he's 28 years old. He's in the absolute apex of his career. I don't think you're going to see him get any better than this. He's been playing in Europe for almost 7 years. He signed with Hamburg in 2009 from Táchira, which is a Venezuelan club. But this presents such a massive opportunity for Juventus now, because now they can play the 4-3-1-2, which they've really been wanting to play, or some kind of version of that, whether it be a 4-3-2-1 with an attacking trident. That's what Juventus wants. I think that's what Allegri wants. But they hadn't been able to do it because with Marchisio, Pjanic, and Khedira, there is no physical presence that requires two players to mark up on them. It's a big opportunity for Rincon. I imagine he's going to slot in on the left side, or maybe even the right side of a three-man midfield with probably Sturaro bowing out. See, that's been the problem with Juventus this season. When the BBC got hurt, Barzagli, Bonucci, and Chiellini, they had to switch up to a backline of 4. Well, Dani Alves is hurt, so now they put even more strain on the club. Stefan Lichtsteiner isn't the player he used to be a few years ago. So, what do we have now? So, with a 4-3-1-2 system, which Allegri had demonstrated he likes to play, I could see Rincon slotting in the same role Paul Pogba did, but I think on the right. Well, it just depends it just depends. He is a right-footed player, so I'd imagine Pjanic would slot forward into the attacking midfield role of trequartista. How well this works, I don't know, but it's such a typical Marotta mid-season move. The more I think about it, the more it just simply works. The details of the deal will be in the description below. You can go ahead and, if you want to, click on the article. But basically, it's a less than 10 million euro buyout clause, which they're obligated to pay. So pretty much, it's a loan with obligation to buy. I think Rincon can only do well at Juventus, because even if he fails, I think he can get moved around in the summer, because I'm sure some Premier League team will snap him up. He's a box-to-box midfielder, folks. And everything that I've watched on him in past Genoa games is that the reason why Genoa was so tough to beat, and they are absolutely renowned for this, is giving the big teams a really hard time. I mean, remember, they beat Juventus 3-1 this year. Their midfield is a smaller version of the old Juventus midfield. They are impossible to break down. Now, after January, who knows what's going to happen to the Genovese midfield, because they've lost now Pavoletti, Rincon, Laxalt is on his way out. Who knows who else will be leaving Genoa and who else could be coming in? There's the club is going to do what they usually do in January and sell off a lot of talent for some high prices and slide down the table. This is typical textbook Genoa 101. The club sells off in January and they buy back in July. That's it for me today. I hope you've enjoyed this quick tidbit of information. Again, Tomas Rincon to Juventus is all but done. Have a great evening, everybody. Ciao.